Hey everyone, I'm Ashutosh Yadav. I'm currently working with Hansraj College as an assistant professor. So, in today's video, we are going to talk about the most important concept of finance, that is time value of money. So, as the phrase suggests, there is something that time has got to do with the value of money. Now, if we go by the textbook description of the concept, it refers to the fact that money received today is different in its worth from the money receivable at some other time in future. It has implication from a very famous English proverb, that is, a bird in hand is better than two in bush. Now, let us talk at a really minuscule level that will help us understand the concept. Now, suppose we're given with two options. The option A is to take 1000 rupees today, and option B is to take 1000 rupees after an year. Now, what would we choose? Now, even if we forget about the nuances of finance subject and talk with a layman's mental setup, we would definitely go for 1000 rupees today. Now we need to understand what would prompt us to choose 1000 rupees today instead of 1000 rupees tomorrow. Now, first reason would be future uncertainties. Now, there would be risk involved. The party that is supposed to pay us 1000 rupees might go insolvent. Now, to understand this deeply, let us consider a really simple example that you students would go through. You're supposed to get your pocket money from your parents. Now, they give you two options, either to take the pocket money in the beginning of the month or at the end of the month. Now, even if we do not understand finance at all, I'm pretty sure that each one of us is going to choose 1000 rupees today. I mean, that's rational as well. Why? Because there are so many things that might come up within this 1 month period time that can change our parents' mood. My test result would come up, and say the mood would depend upon obviously my result, the outcome of my results. So I don't want to subject my pocket money to all those uncertainties, so I would definitely prefer it today. Moving ahead, there can be another plausible reason behind us making this choice, that is, preference for current consumption. Now, there are various alternative uses wherein this money could have been put to use. Now, this preference, though, is subjective in nature and might differ from person to person. This can be a corollary to the fact that in an inflationary situation, money has higher purchasing power today than in future. Moving on to the last reason that could prompt us to make this choice is the reinvestment opportunities. Now, this is something which has a financial backing and has its orientation in finance. Any sum received today can be reinvested in some avenue and can earn income in this duration of 1 year, as in our case. So there is an opportunity cost which is associated with choosing to receive money in future. And this is what decreases money's worth over time. Now, in our initial example, if we take 1000 rupees today and invest it anywhere, say a fixed deposit in a bank, which is risk free, right? And that which bears an interest rate of 6 to 7%. Now it would fetch us rupees 70 in 1 year, and our total capital at the end of the year would be rupees 1070, as against option B, that is receiving 1000 rupees after 1 year. Now we have got two figures to compare with, 1000 rupees at the end of the year 1 and 1070 had we taken the first option and reinvested it in a FD. And since this is a hypothetical situation and 1000 rupees might be a small amount, but don't forget, we would be talking about financial decisions of big firms and companies wherein such decisions would entail matters of thousands of lakhs of money. In a nutshell, we can say that the concept of time value of money exists owing to three reasons: future uncertainties, preference for current consumption, and reinvestment opportunities. Now that we have established the fact that there is a factor that we need to consider before making choices with respect to money today and money receivable in future, let us move on to understand how we can compare these two amounts. We have got two options to do this. Either we can calculate today's value, that is the present value of amount receivable in future, or we can calculate the value of the amount received today in future, that is the future value. The calculation of the present value of sum of money receivable in future is known as discounting. That is, wherein we calculate the present value of some future money that we are going to receive. Now, this technique is known as discounting, and calculation of future value of money which is receivable today, that is at time period 0, is known as compounding. So when we take the cash flow of today's period and calculates its future value, this is known as compounding. And when we take some certain figure in future and calculates its present value, this is known as discounting. From now on, whenever we would be comparing cash flows at two different time periods, we would always be using either of these two techniques. Before delving further into these two techniques, let us understand that the relationship between present value and future value is dependent on two important factors: time frame and rate of interest, or the required rate of return, which is nothing but the opportunity cost associated with money. Let us now start with the compounding technique, which is used to find out the future value of any present sum of money. Now, this concept is similar to the concept of compound interest, wherein future value is equal to present value multiplied by 1 plus r raised to the power n, where r is the required rate of return and n is the time period for which compounding is being done. Now, as we can see, this is exactly the same formula as we had for the amount calculation in case of compound interest. Now, this factor, which is being multiplied with the present value to compute future value, is known as the compound value factor, that is CVF. Now, we can either calculate the CVF directly using this formula, that is the bracket one, or we can refer to the CVF tables, that is compound value factor tables, that are prepared using different combinations of R and N, that is for different time periods and different required rate of returns. Usually you would find these tables at the end of your textbooks. Let us consider an example. Suppose we are given with few options to choose from. First, rupees 10,000 today, or second, rupees 10,900 at the end of the first year, or third option, rupees 12,400 at the end of the second year, and fourth option, that is 13,000 at the end of the third year. We're also given with the required rate of return, that is 10%. Since we are going by the compounding technique, we are interested in finding out the future values of these different cash flows occurring at different time intervals. Now, since our last time period is third year, we shall calculate the value of all the receivables at the end of the third year, and then we would be making the comparison. Let us begin with the first option, that is 10,000 rupees at time period 0. Now we know from the formula we know that future value is equal to present value, that is 10,000 rupees multiplied by 1 plus r, that is 1 plus 10% raised to the power 3. Similarly, for option 2, future value would be 10,900 multiplied by 1 plus 10% raised to the power 2. And future value for third option would be 12,400 multiplied by 1 plus 10% raised to the power 1. And the fourth option, since it is already being received at the end of the third year, so future value of 13,000 after 3 years, which is receivable after 3 years, would be the same, that is 13,000 rupees. Now, as I've already told, we can either do this calculation of compound value factors manually or use the compound value factor tables. Now, I have used the values for CVF for 10% at different time period as shown in the table, and simply multiplied the cash flows of different time periods with their respective CVFs and arrived at their future values as shown in the table. Now, since all the cash flows have been taken to the same time period, we can now make the final choice. Though at the beginning 13,000 seemed to be the better option, the results are however different. This is how we compound the present cash flows and calculate their future values. Now we move on to the next technique, that is the discounting technique. Now we use discounting technique to find out the present value of any future sum of money, and the formula for calculation of present value is future value multiplied by 1 divided by 1 plus r raised to the power n, where r is again the required rate of return or the opportunity cost, which is always given to us in our practical and numerical questions, and n is the time period. And this factor 1 divided by 1 plus r raised to the power n is known as the present value factor. Let us try to solve a numerical considering the same example. Since we are going by the discounting technique, we are interested in finding out the present values of these different cash flows, that is, the value as of today at time period 0. And then we would compare the different options and take our final decision. Now let us begin with the first option, that is 10,000 rupees today. Always remember that the present value factor for time period 0 is always going to be 1 for any required rate of return. Now why? Remember the formula for present value, which is equal to future value multiplied by 1 divided by 1 plus r raised to the power n. And n in this case would be 0, and anything raised to the power 0 would always give us 1. So PVF for time period 0 for any rate of return for any r would always be 1. For option 2, present value would be 10,900 rupees divided by 1 plus 10% raised to the power 1. Similarly, present value for third option would be 12,400 divided by 1 plus 10% raised to the power 2. And present value for fourth option would be 13,000 divided by 1 plus 10% raised to the power 3. Now, as we did in the case of compounding, we can either do this calculation of PVF manually or use the PVF tables. Now, I have used the values for PVF for 10% at different time periods as shown in the table, and simply multiply the cash flows of different time periods with their respective present value factors, and we have arrived at their present value as shown in the last column. Now, since all the cash flows have been taken to the same time period, now we are ready to make the final choice. Always remember that the results would always be the same in both the techniques. So this is all about the two techniques of time value of money, the discounting technique and compounding technique. In the next video, we would discuss the compounding and discounting of annuity. Thank you.